Hey there guys, welcome to the next time lapse here on the channel. It's Friday once again. Batman's been a lot in the news lately, so I decided to actually film a Batman, kind of a Batman silhouette time lapse here. Going to be talking a little bit about the Batman character and of course the news of Ben Affleck becoming the new Batman, which has kind of taken the internet by storm, especially in the comic book circles. So starting off, I'm just going to use a bit of cardstock paper here. I'm going to use an all chrome background for this. It's kind of a simple silhouette, but I do have a few other things I'm going to add to it at the very end, which would be pretty cool as well. So I'm going to be cutting that around. So yeah, it's been announced that Ben Affleck is going to be the next Batman in the next Man of Steel sequel, which will be in 2015. A lot of people are not too happy about it. I'm more or less a Marvel Comics fan, so I really don't care too much about Batman, but I was kind of surprised and I kind of laughed a lot that Ben Affleck is going to be the next Batman. Definitely not, probably the last person I would expect to become the next Batman in the series of videos and TV shows and such, but well, I guess we'll see if he can pull it off. I just keep having these thoughts back to when he played Daredevil in 2003. And some of the actors and actresses who kind of bounce around a lot of different comic book movies, especially when they bounce around to both Marvel and DC, back and forth, they kind of tend not to do well. I'm thinking of Ryan Reynolds when he's been in actually 3 different superhero movies over the course of his career so far, and it's going to look like he's going to be in a 4th one eventually. So, and he hasn't exactly done too well in any of them, so we'll have to wait and see. But anyway, here's the actual image here. It's kind of a silhouette of Batman. He's got kind of like a grappling thing on here. Kind of has a giant, either I guess a red moon in the background. I'm assuming it's not this sun because he doesn't come out during the daytime, of course. And I'm going to be adding 2 Batman logos to the very end as well. With the older Batman logo for the old movies, and then the newer contemporary one for the Dark Knight trilogy as well. So finding exactly where to stick that. Kind of looks like an abstract planet a time lapse before you stick all this stuff on with that red blob and then kind of that giant black blob underneath it. So cutting out this giant piece first, and then I'm going to be sticking that on in different pieces. Like I said, though, I'm not really a huge fan of DC Comics. Marvel Comics has always been my major comic book home. I like the Marvel Comics characters a lot better. I think DC pretty much suffers from a lot of their comic book characters not being mainstream. They have some of the most mainstream comic book characters like Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, but then that's it. Like, you pretty much look at the entire Justice League and that's about the most popular and only heroes that that people know about when they think about DC Comics. When you think about Marvel Comics, you got like all the X-Men people know about, Spider-Man, Iron Man, all the Avengers, Hulk, Thor, like all those people. They're like Fantastic Four. There's a whole bunch of different comic book characters in Marvel that are kind of equal in popularity. And I think they spread out their universes a lot better and a lot cooler than DC does, which is kind of cool. Anyway, so that's why I've always been a fan of Marvel over DC. It's kind of just more or less just personal preference, but like I said, never been much of a huge fan of Batman or Superman. So there's the entire piece. I have to cut this out into a whole bunch of different pieces because there's no way this is going to be transferred to the the part of the paper there without it kind of coming apart into a million different pieces by accident. So I kind of have to cut it out into different pieces, apply it all separately. So there we go. Gonna line that up towards the bottom. A few little sticky strings there I can trim off with my hobby knife eventually. And we see that piece there. Now I'm gonna work on part of his grapple here. It's kind of a little hard to tell with the silhouette, but that's exactly what it is on the picture. And this one's a little tricky because it's got a whole bunch of little pieces that can kind of like get stuck together and then kind of rip off. So couldn't figure out exactly how to stick it, so I just stuck it there for a few seconds, and then I'm going to go back and fix that, find out exactly where it's supposed to be stuck down. So sticking those 3 on there, right there, and then I'm going to rearrange that piece. Looks great. So there will be some cool Hunger Games videos coming pretty soon. I know it's a little bit early before Catching Fire comes out in November, but I will be focusing a little bit on the Hunger Games pretty soon, with a few time lapses, a few tutorials related to the Hunger Games. So if you're a huge fan of the Hunger Games, you can definitely expect some cool things coming to the channel for that. So here's the first old, because this is kind of like the older Batman logo for the older Tim Burton movies where Michael Keaton was Batman. And I didn't realize there were actually about 20 to 30 different Batman logos. Like they made a pretty much a different logo for every single different thing over the course of, since Batman was created. And this is one of the most contemporary ones when you kind of think of all those other ones since the first comic book was released. But this is a fairly a well-known logo with the black and the yellow. And I'm just going to be trimming this out and then cutting it and sticking it right onto the yellow piece there. Alrighty. I'm pretty sure in the Michael Keaton movies they actually use a different bat logo for the bat signal too. I think it was more of a circular shape instead of an oval. I think this one was the one that he wore like on his actual costume. So there's the first one. This is, of course, the new contemporary logo, the Christian Bale Batman series, and it's kind of shaped. It's definitely more pointed. It's very it's a lot wider, really. It kind of gives an impression of a much wider like logo and kind of like just a much larger thing that you can splash onto different things. A much bigger logo. So sticking that on there kind of gives the impression of a larger, more scarier Batman, I guess. And also the shape of the batarangs that he throws in the movie. So sticking those on, I'm going to stick that on the left side and this one on the right side. And there we have it. Alright, so there we go. So hopefully you guys liked the video on this Batman time-lapse. Like I said, not sure how Ben Affleck's going to do a couple years from now, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. So hope you guys liked the video. If you like Batman, catch you next time on the channel pretty soon.